This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Whitney, and my guest today is Peter Van Leeuwen, co-founder of Van Leeuwen Ice Cream. Peter, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.
What kind of inspired you guys to start this company?
Early 2000s, Ben and I used to rent a couple of good humor trucks from a couple brothers in Mount Vernon, New York, and we sold prepackaged good humor ice cream out of these trucks in the suburbs. We learned the mobile vending business through doing that, and it was pretty lucrative, pretty good for like a couple of kids.
Yeah.
And so what we did was, fast forward like 6 or 7 years after that, and Ben was in New York City one day walking around, and this is pre-food truck boom. So all that really existed were Mr. Softy trucks, a couple of coffee trucks, maybe a taco truck.
Yeah.
And Ben struck up a conversation with the guy who was working on a coffee truck, and it sort of led to this idea, like, why is no one serving like sustainably sourced and cleanly produced beautiful ice cream out of these trucks?
Right.
And so he called Laura and he called me and asked if we wanted to do this. We're like, yes. And it was one of those ideas, one of those moments where it feels so obvious in a way that you think, oh, well, it's already being done.
Right.
It's already been done. It's already happened. Like, no.
Yeah.
Sometimes like the best ideas are like the simplest ones that just like nobody's nailed yet. And so in that case, we had to, upon agreeing to doing this, we had to raise some money. We had to figure out the mobile vending permit black market of New York City at the time.
Right.
You know, there was a moratorium placed on these permits like in the early 80s or something. So
Wow.
that wasn't easy to do. Most importantly, we had to figure out how to make good ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And so through a series of like small investments, like primarily just from friends and family, like $2,000 here, $3,000 there, including a $25,000 line of credit, we were able to raise $65,000. And with that, we bought an old clunky 1988 Chevy step van off eBay and worked with this guy, Patrick, under the Triborough Bridge in Queens to revive the American, like the classic American ice cream truck. And we built this out to look somewhat what our trucks look like today, a little bit different. And so we did that over the winter of 2007 into 2008, and started R&Ding and experimenting with making ice cream in our tiny little Greenpoint apartment.
And I love that story that you guys raised money, because a lot of entrepreneurs have that misconception that they need $1 million in the bank to start a business and to make it successful. But I want to kind of go back. So what was the lead time, would you say, from when you actually were like, okay, we're finalized on this one flavor? Then how did you kind of get the branding and everything and then get it onto shelves of stores?
Sure. Way back when, we didn't even consider marketing.
Right.
We didn't consider any of these things. We just
Right.
thought, hey, listen, if we make the best ice cream in the country, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
signed, sealed, delivered, we're good.
Right.
People will find us, people will know.
Yeah.
That helped us, and it also hurt us a little bit, but it was also a little bit true, at least at the start.
Yeah.
Because when we did finally, in June of that year, after getting a permit, and there was a lot leading up to this.
Yeah.
There was a lot, quite a few moments of adversity, which I won't get into because I know we're limited on time. But when we did finally hit the road, we rolled up to a spot on Canal Street, thinking like population density, yes, look at all these people, and nobody even looked at the truck, nobody stopped, and we're like,
Wow.
oh my God, this was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
We blew it. All of this for this?
Right.
Unbelievable. And like we're about to just throw in the towel and like chalk it up as
Yeah.
a year and a half of our lives
Right.
thrown away. So, but we, from Canal Street in New York City, we rolled up to a corner of Prince and Green in Soho, opened the window, and like a line formed, and people were just like, what is this thing? So because again, like the only trucks that existed up to that point, for the most part, we're Mr. Softy, and that was what an ice cream truck looked like.
Right.
So then to see this like buttery yellow ice cream truck that at the time we didn't even have our decals of cones.
Right.
So it was very confusing.
Yeah.
And a menu that had a lot of botanical illustrations on it.
Right.
Was confusing to the first customers who stepped up, but as soon as people were tasting our ice cream, they were buying our ice cream.
Absolutely. And what would you say the biggest challenge was that you faced back then, and how is it different than the challenges you face today as your company keeps growing?
Literally for the first 10 years of our business, we never raised money.
Wow.
And it was tough, especially in the winters, but it would be like sort of this patchwork of taking out little, like small loans and just barely making ends meet. And I remember one day, it was winter time, and I was like carrying my like 40-pound change jar to the bank. Yeah. To like put in a Coinstar because payroll was like about to go through 2 hours after that.
Yeah.
And at this point, we had maybe 30 employees, 30 team members, and it was running into the stores to grab every dollar out of the register and like leaving with like $10 in change because we just had to make it. We just had to get there. And so, but to answer your question more specifically, I think the challenge was like managing people and learning how to manage people. That still today remains a challenge, certainly as the team has grown. But the difference being when it was the Ben, Pete, and Laura show for the first 10 years, and we were across literally everything and had our hands in all of it. And, it's hard not to micromanage at that point. Right. And at the same time, try to empower people. And, none of us went to school for that or had experience as restaurant managers or anything like that. So there was a learning curve there. Certainly challenging to figure out how to do it effectively and well. Clearly, we've done pretty good at it. Yeah, you've done amazing. And trying to get better, but a turning point was in 2018 we raised money for the first time, and so within the last year we've hired some incredibly talented people, and it's amazing to be working with them. And seeing the value and the insights and the experience and just the general knowledge that they're bringing from their specific areas of expertise to the business and to the company. And so the challenge still remains the leap of faith of like handing these things off to people and knowing and believing that they'll do well. And they will, and they are. Yeah. But it's still sort of there. Right, because you've been hands-on for so many years. And now totally. It must be nice, though, to take a little step back. Oh, it's amazing once you do, once you're able to. Our most recent hire is this amazing supply chain gentleman, and he's amazing. But I've been, for the most part, heading logistics and that's one of the things he's taking over, and still he's been here for all of 2 months, but still I'm finding myself almost naturally like micromanager. I'm like, no, back off. He's got it. He's the man. So you started with one food truck, we call it, a yellow ice cream truck. And now how many brick and mortar locations have you guys opened, and how many grocery stores are you in? Currently we have 17 scoop shops in New York City. There's 4 trucks total, and then there's 4 scoop shops in Los Angeles. We're looking at 1 to 2 new markets within the next year or two. Probably, well, I don't want to say anything yet. Yeah. But 1 to 2 new markets, and probably 5 or 6 more new locations opening in 2020. There has been a slight shift in focus away from historically, as obviously we've only grown and been like hyper focused on what we call retail, which are our scoop shops. Now we're really digging into wholesale because there's a lot of value in blowing up the wholesale space. We produce what we think is the best vegan ice cream in the world. We have 2 different lines of it. Now we have a cashew-based one, which is cashew, coconuts, and cocoa butter. Yep. And then the new line that we're doing is oat milk. coconut and
nice.
cocoa butter, and so the oat
That'll
milk
do
thing-
great.
it's so good.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't think we
excited.
could really one up the cashew base.
Yeah.
And now I think we might have. So
Even when I'm in your store, I'll try samples and stuff. I'll still end up usually going with the vegan, even though I'm not vegan, just because it's so good. You really can't taste the difference. I'm like, why not? I'll just get it.
totally.
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs, people who want to start, grow, or fund a business, let that fear of failure get in the way of following their passion. What advice do you have for those entrepreneurs?
The most important thing is, as an entrepreneur, is assuming you didn't come up with your idea like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And you've been in it for a minute
Right.
with it, sitting with it. Is that you have total and ultimate faith in that idea. And so meaning like, let's say you're a year or 2 or 5 in, and you're in one of the many moments of adversity that you're going to be facing, and you start to doubt decisions and initiatives and just yourself and the idea. I would say like, you cannot at any point doubt the idea, the concept itself, what you're doing, because it's natural. Of course, you're going to make mistakes. Of course, you're going to doubt yourself and your ability to do this and lead it and crush it and win and like succeed in this. But, you can't ignore like the cumulative confidence that that comes with sitting with something. First of all, like the inception, like you've got it, you believe in it enough to do something about it, right? And then, however long it's been since you've been working on that idea and hashing it out and talking to people about it and working so hard to make it happen, like all of that sweat and cumulative confidence that's in there, like that already exists, and it becomes bigger than you. It becomes bigger than you and your partners. It becomes bigger than a lot, and so I think it's important to like remember in those moments where you're really questioning the entire thing, that you should just question maybe certain decisions, because the reality is right up around the bend, and it might be the next day, it might be a week, it might be 2 years around the bend, you're going to learn things, and you're going to find solutions to problems that you would not have been able to solve 2 years before that, or a day before that. You're going to find just generally, I think you're gonna find new perspectives in your future, like around the corners, that help support your idea and yourself and everything that goes into it. So, yeah, once it's become bigger than you, like you owe it to beyond just yourself. You owe it to the idea and everyone involved to give it your all and believe in it more than anything.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited to see where you guys are in the future. It was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This is Business Rockstars. That was my amazing guest, Peter Van Leeuwen, co-founder of Van Leeuwen Ice Cream.